My name, once again, is Dr. Sharon McPherson. I'm a proud member of the faculty of the GSB, and I teach project finance. I got started with disruption and digital transformation as a result of the work that I was doing with smart cities. So I mentioned I teach project finance. And then I got involved with advising on smart city projects about 15 years ago. And together with the GSB, as well as Stanford, Oxford, the Center for Disruptive Technologies, which I am a founder of, has developed over 475 case studies. I'm going to talk just a little bit about how the concepts of work and office have converged and merged. That's important for understanding the digital transformation piece of this, which we'll get to when we really start looking at how COVID-19 and this fourth industrial revolution are converging to accelerate the pace of digital transformation, which in turn is really transforming our notions around work, right? And then what I wanted to do was really not just kind of leave you there, but to take it a step further and to say, how do we begin to look at the right strategies for making sense of all of this and what that could mean for us as leaders in our various respective industries and firms and organizations and government, so that we can move from just being surprised by all these disruptions that are happening in the marketplace towards being empowered to actually create the future of work that we desire. My personal goal for you today is that as a result of this conversation that we have together, that you leave this session being able to see better, because that is going to help you then to be able to better imagine the future and to create the future work that you want. Because I am interested in helping you to move from this comfort zone where we were, before real market disruption started to occur. Many of us are with organizations that have been around for over 100 years. And that way of thinking and being that has brought us this level of success is not the same way of thinking and being that's going to take us to the growth zone. And so then what starts to happen is fear, technological anxiety. Do I really have this? Am I increasingly becoming irrelevant? Is the robot going to take my job? Well, I mean, honestly speaking, if the robot can take your job, the robot should take your job, and you can push back on that a little bit later. But there it is. I've said it. Moving through a learning zone to a growth zone and sort of saying, well, what could my future work look like? What should the office look like of the future? But in order for us to move to a place where we really are empowered to imagine and to forge this future of work that we dream of, we've got to move from a comfort zone through to a growth zone, and understanding that embracing that perennial beta is really part and parcel of the new normal. So what do you see? Advancing technologies is only one of the factors that's driving disruption. Climate change, I mean, many of us have there is a nexus between climate change and water, energy, and food sustainability, right? So population growth, cyber and bioterrorism, global pandemics, globalization versus nationalism. I'm sitting here, in the United States where we are dealing with pushback against globalization. And we're going to be continuing to experience that tension between populism and liberalism as people try to emerge from that comfort zone into the fear zone. And so a lot of what we're seeing through here is actually a result of fear, right? And then along came COVID, the COVID-19 pandemic, which only served to accelerate those 4 IR factors that we were already grappling with to create challenges as well as opportunities that have been absolutely unprecedented in human history. But it is not just a question of challenges, it is a question of opportunity. But if we're going to be able to realize these opportunities, we have to increase our capacity to see, right? To raise our levels of awareness so that then we can see differently. What I want you to take from this visual is the fact that we have a combination of what I call third platform technologies that are really based in computer science. This convergence and merging, which is not necessarily the same, which is why I keep using different terms, is causing an acceleration in terms of the exponential growth. What we thought was that some of these future scenarios, which are here, right? Money 2.0, right? These kinds of things, we thought it would take maybe roughly 20 years for us to get here. And we know that many of these kinds of future scenarios we are realizing today at a much faster pace. Also, what's happening is in the Black is this new economic paradigm that's emerging. And I want you to think about what the new economic paradigm is for you, for your organization, for your teams, for your company, for your government, for our country. Clearly, it's not just technology, but it's all kinds of things. So in South Africa, for sure, we have at least 5 generations of people working in the same workplace. That's the first time in history, right? And people have very different notions about what work may mean, along with the rise of independent workers. And now COVID-19 has accelerated this pace of change by a factor of 10. And so we are trying to make sense of what these future scenarios can look like. The office has really begun to dematerialize. And so once something becomes digitized, its growth becomes deceptive. So I'm going to go back just one slide, because when you are in this J-curve situation, kind of like with climate change, it's easy to ignore. It's happening all around you. So we were going along and many of us were in denial about the impact of 4IR factors on the future of work. And then COVID-19 came along and the disruption accelerated by, I believe, a factor of 10. Some of my colleagues like Herman say less. I think it's by a factor of 10. And then things start to dematerialize. So we're somewhere in there. And we need to we're in between disruption and dematerialization. And what does that mean for property? What does it mean for physical spaces, right? How do we begin to move from fear into growth as we reimagine what the future of work can look like?
I think I'll kick off the questions and maybe try and use up the little bit of time that we've got. So the digital divide, right? Key issue for South Africa. When you were sort of going through the first industrial revolution and the second one, the third and the fourth, I couldn't help but note that South Africa's not even cracked the second one yet, because we're still struggling with electrification and Eskom, and that's been a serious problem for us. How does or can South Africa keep pace and remain competitive in this ever shrinking world? My big concern is South Africa remains the country with the highest Gini coefficient on the planet, with the most unequal society. And as digital technologies sort of start taking hold and disruption takes hold, there's the sense that a massive chunk of our population is being left behind. Is this a sustainable trajectory for us as a country, and how do we keep pace?
I just believe that we're going to pull it together. And I think, yes, we are one of the most unequal, but we are also one of the places on the planet where people are the most creative. We're really early adapters. One quick thing. Years ago, when I worked on Wall Street, I tried to raise capital to invest in mobile telephony. And they laughed at me and they told me Africans could not afford cell phones. So why was I investing in Africa? Okay, yeah. That says it all, right? Okay, so I think we can take these lessons. I'm interested in us creating new technologies and not just adapting some technology that was invented somewhere else, but that's a separate discussion. We are deeply unequal. We are still grappling with lots of things, but I truly believe that we've got the capacity to leverage some of these 4IR factors to jump ahead.
And
I believe that.
I think